What's up? Welcome in. Hoge Jahns with you from Indianapolis. Quite a complex.
You keep calling this Indianapolis. It is not Indianapolis.
Okay, we are nowhere near Indianapolis.
Westfield?
We are in Westfield, Indiana.
We drove through some cornfields to get to this practice
true.
facility, but it is it's actually quite impressive. It must be 1,000, I'm exaggerating, but 1,000 soccer fields here.
It feels like 1,000. We're not that far from Indy. JJ Stankovic is here. He lives like...
It's right there.
JJ, how far from here do you live?
What?
How far from here do you live?
I live 15 minutes from here.
He lives 15 minutes from here, and he
Covers
it's
the
not like
Colts.
being in Bourbonnais.
Fair.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Give you a good spot to go tonight because it's not Donlands.
Yes. Okay. He brought up TJ Donlands. I miss Bourbonnais. This feels more like training camp, I will say. I like it. But there's an empty chair between us because the general manager of the Chicago Bears is going to be here with us, Ryan Poles, and our annual training camp interview with the GM we've been doing basically since we started this podcast, which we always appreciate. We've done it on the road a couple times. We did it in New England one year. I know. So these
That was with Ryan Pace.
Yeah.
Where else on the road?
I'm not sure. Maybe this is only the
But
second.
various
Yeah.
locations. Inside Hallis Hall on fields 3 and 4.
Yes.
I feel like we're missing. I think we are missing a city. Denver?
Every year, yeah, maybe it all runs together though. But I love these joint practices. It's a great idea, and the Bears are here to get underway. We're gonna get right into the interview because that's basically what this episode is gonna be. Just full transparency, we are recording this before the practices have even happened. So we'll be back and come back with actual football from these joint practices for you. But we want to make sure we got our conversation with Ryan Poles out there for you. So make sure you're following us on Twitter for all the updates from Indy, at Adam Hoge, at Adam Johns. Of course, you can read Johnsy on The Athletic. You can find me on CHGO. We'll have practice recap shows each day while we're here as well on CHGO. But without further ado, let's jump right in our conversation with Ryan Poles. Well, we're happy once again to have the general manager of the Chicago Bears with us. Thanks for joining us.
Absolutely.
Ryan Poles. We're here in Indianapolis.
Kind of.
Well, we are pretty far outside Indy. Once you actually get down here, but this complex is insane.
I think we're on a farm. A couple baseball fields and soccer fields on a farm here.
You never got the Bourbonnais experience, but this was like...
He did as a player.
Oh, that's right. No, you had... Yeah. This is like Bourbonnais on steroids is what I was thinking.
A lot more open space, yeah.
Well, Indy's been an interesting connection for the Bears since I feel like week 18 of last year. You had what happened the last week to secure the number 1 pick.
Right.
We were here with you in February for the Combine where you kind of announced to the whole league that, hey, the pick's for sale.
Yep.
You ended up getting DJ Moore and a whole lot more. Now back here for training camp practices. Right. I don't know if you think about that. We think about that kind of stuff. I just find that interesting, like the connections here.
Right. No, I'm always thinking ahead. Straightforward, so got to stay on our toes. But, yeah, it's been a cool experience to go through and kind of seeing what the team's becoming. It's been cool.
So one of those players Adam just mentioned is obviously DJ Moore. Has he been everything maybe up to this point you hoped he would be when you put him in that trade?
Yeah, as a player, absolutely. Just the playmaking on a consistent basis has been really cool to see. I was actually telling him I was proud of him and everything that he's done so far. The dependability piece is the part that gets you excited. It's every practice. There's multiple plays that it's helping the team, helping the offense. Where I think he really exceeded my expectations is the person. Just a great guy, always a smile on his face. He works hard every day. Family man, just gets along with everyone in the locker room. So it's been a really a seamless, process to get him onboarded and going. So it's been cool.
Can you talk about maybe some of those multiple ways? Obviously, Tyreek Stevenson has had his hands full since the start of camp.
Yeah.
But the layers, the layers of impact that he's had, maybe football-wise, and then maybe in the locker room.
Yeah, the layers I'd start with just the competition. You have a young corner, really from Tyreek to Jalen, to see a receiver his caliber every single day. Really you got to be focused. You got to be dialed in. You're going to get beat. You got to have a short memory. So he's really helping the others, grow as well, just based on the competition and the skill set. So it's going to help us big time.
I've been a fan of his just as a player for a long time. It goes back to when he was in Maryland.
Yeah.
I was on the sidelines with Northwestern. He put up 10 catches, 200-something yards, 2 touchdowns, just so dominant with his route running after the catch. Is he – do you consider him one of those players that, a scout would refer to as a multiplier, where he just instantly came in and kind of made your whole offense better?
Yeah, absolutely a multiplier. You can even see it with our quarterback. Justin's trusting him so fast. I mean, when you talk about throwing a guy open, giving him opportunities to make plays, he lets it rip. And there were some times last year where that part wasn't there all the time. And he's really gained his trust fast, which, when you have a quarterback and receiver, you got to establish that quickly, and they did. So
one thing we've talked about is how this move is like part of a trend. Stephon Diggs, he helps Josh Allen. Josh Allen helps him.
Yep.
A.J. Brown helps Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts helps him. Like, they ascend together. The numbers go up together. So to see that instant connection actually, let's go back to that. Like, what do you think of that trend? And then do you see that trend maybe coming to fruition here, at least in their early going?
Yeah, I think it makes sense. I mean, as a quarterback, you need to establish some confidence. And then there's going to be times where things break down. And you're going to have to give guys opportunities to make plays for you. And they're going to get you out of some of those tough spots when maybe it's not an easy read or things break down. So as confidence goes up, they start to have that same trust and belief in the other guys to make plays too. So I even see this as something that's going to be contagious and, continue to grow with Mooney and continue to grow with Cole and the other guys. So it's been a cool process to go through. And you're right. I mean, the trend's there, but I think it comes down to how hard the quarterback position is. And if you kind of have a guy that can be, duct tape, when you need it, I think that's important. That's what he brings. So
your practices, I mean, we've been at Bears training camps for a long time now. I feel like this has been the most competitive training camp I've seen in a while.
Yep.
And even the back and forth, offense wins one day, defense wins. Usually it's feels like it's lopsided one way or the other.
Yeah.
And it seems like it's really been a back and forth. I'm just curious, what do you like about the way that your guys are practicing right now in camp? Because to me, it's really stood out as different in a good way.
Yeah, I'd go back to last year. It took some time, but we were able to really set a standard how we're going to operate in terms of how we're going to compete every single day. And that's been contagious, and it really carried over from last year to this year. Now we've been able to add even more talent, so that's kind of increased even more. And then I really think, that's part of scouting too. You want to keep bringing guys in that are highly competitive guys that have a passion for football. They care if they win or lose. They care if they leave that field that day and their side of the ball didn't have a good day. They're going to want to get back out and have a good day the next day. So I think it has a lot to do with the standard we put in place last year, but also the people that we brought in.
When you're watching maybe some of those battles, which positions are starting to really stand out to you in terms of we did add a lot of talent there, and we're starting to see that maybe we have something really good here. Is it the secondary? Is it the defensive end battle that's brewing after the first preseason game?
Yeah, the one that stands out is the defensive end battle. A lot of guys in the room, a lot of good players in the room. Cut down day is going to be a lot harder than what it was last year, and that means I think we're doing the right thing. But you could just see the effort that the guys played with last year or this past week in the preseason games in terms of wanting to affect the game and stand out, which is good to see.
It surprised me to see. I know the depth charts that are released publicly only matters so much, but to see Travis Gibson last on that depth chart stood out to us when we talked about it last week. And then he came out like his hair was on fire in that game the other day and played great. So I assume that's just one of the examples of what you're talking about. And then those third rounders you picked up, I think they're both ex-third rounders that you picked up from other teams. Change of scenery, what's going on there? Because both of those guys have really stood out, even going back to OTAs. I know they're not wearing pads, but Rasheem Green and Terrell Lewis, they've had really good practices.
I think it's a competitive room in terms of they got to go and they got to perform at a high level to make the team and to have a role that's going to help them be successful as we go forward. The more talent you add, the more competition there is, and it's good to see. The depth chart is tricky early, It's hard to set those things right now. We take not too much time to do that. Because we know it's going to play out once we start playing games. You know, there's a lot of times we're in practice. There's guys that'll do well in practice, but when the lights come on, it's a different deal. So it's very fluid at this time. But you know, I've been an athlete before. You know, you see that, and that might motivate you to do some other things and stand out. So that was clear.
How many running backs is too many running backs?
Yeah.
It seems like in terms of you lose David Montgomery free agency, but that position seems deeper, stronger, just a lot of players who could contribute with the first team there.
Yeah, and there's a lot of different styles in that group too. And then when you look at special teams and add that part into it, again, that's going to be a really tough battle all the way down to the very end in terms of, you know, where they are in the depth chart and who gets the carries early and who makes the team. So, again, to me, that's speaks volumes on our front office in terms of just being relentless of adding talent, creating competitive situations where everyone's got to be at their best.
You mentioned special teams. Are some positions, maybe in your opinion or philosophically or historically, maybe better at special teams in terms of like filling them out than others? You always think about defensive backs and maybe the tight ends there as like extra blockers, but is there one that stands out to you?
Not really. They come in all different, you know, shapes and sizes. Could be defensive ends, and then obviously the skill position because of speed. They're going to have an impact on teams and hold most of the roster spots there. So no, it's not one specific position at all. But again, that's a part of our roster in terms of building a roster. That makes it really interesting on the back end of some of the positions, because if you have a guy that might have made a couple more plays on offense or defense, but yet isn't at a certain level on special teams, that's going to be tough, you know, to make it that way. So they're going to have to really adapt to that and find a way to make plays on special teams.
Because I feel like you got some deep positions where some of those guys, whether it's the sixth receiver or the fifth linebacker, I mean, they're kind of competing with each other in a sense, even though different positions.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
For the record, you asked the special teams question.
I did,
me. But I do have a follow-up.
Of course you do.
Okay, so we all saw Velus struggle with the punt
Yeah.
on Saturday, and it's been something that you guys have been working on all offseason. Right. I'm wondering, like, at what point do you just have to say the guy's not a punt returner? He's a very good kick returner. Maybe he just can't be a punt returner. And then second part of that is if he can't just do that part, but he's a good kick returner, can he still make the team?
Yeah, he's got a skill set that, you know, we saw that a little bit last year in terms of how he was used on the offense to create explosive plays. So I do think there's a role there. We're going to continue to invest our time and resources and everything into getting back to being a good punt returner. We watched it in college at a very high level in the SEC, so I believe it's there. We got to work out some of the issues that he's had. You know, I know this past preseason game he was backed up. That punter is unbelievable, and he ended up kicking a few really short and kind of threw him off his game. That's a part of the game too, so he's going to have to make adjustments. But we're going to keep working with him and see how it works out.
One of the players he's competing with is Tyler Scott.
Yep.
Just in general, not just him, but your draft class.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not sure if, like, you take first impressions and go far with them, but at least when we're watching, like, you're starting to see glimpses already, like, oh, this could be a good group.
Yeah, we like it.
You like it, yes. Yeah.
I do too.
Yes. Yeah. So just, like, the sense you have early on for some of these young guys making an impression for you.
Yeah, I've been really excited about it. Again, it speaks volumes on our staff and how well we did, you know, in the draft. I do think it's early. We got a long ways to go. We all have these, like, check boxes through the process. It's rookie mini camp. You're like, all right, did everyone look normal? Because I've been in rookie mini classes where guys show up and you're like, uh-oh.
First impressions can matter.
Yeah.
Not good. And then you want to get into training camp. Like, can they retain everything from the spring and bring it to training camp? And are they in shape? And you get that over and done with. And then it's like, okay, I've seen everything in helmets and shorts. Can they do it with contact when we put the pads on? And then from there, it's this mental game where it gets hard and you're sore. Can they fight through that, have the mental toughness to play at a high level while tired or a little dinged up from training camp? And then you get into the games. So we're moving through that process, and I'm really excited about the class, and I think these guys are going to be, part of the foundation as we move forward to the next few years.
Well, one of those areas that with one of those rookies, getting back to how you guys have been practicing, the way that Tyreek Stevenson has, I feel like, battled through, whether it's, a bad rep here or Chase Claypool yapping at him throughout practice or something like that. Like, I like how he has responded. Even in the game Saturday,
Right.
loses the guy in coverage first play, but then
7 tackles.
Then he played well after that.
Yeah.
How much do you feel like that some of that back and forth during practice? 'Cause I know that can be a fine line. You don't want to go over the line too much. And maybe it has once or twice so far, but has that helped him to this point?
Yeah, I think it has. He's one of those guys, Miami guy, that has that swagger to him and confidence about himself. I went up to him before the game, and I said, "Hey, man, it's the same game you've been playing since you're a kid." And he looked at me, he was like, "I'm not even nervous. My heart rate's not even up. Like, I'm ready to go." So he believes in himself, and that's obviously a big, big trait at the corner position. We're really proud of that kid. He's not going to fold. He's just going to keep battling, and we've pressed him. Coach Hoke's hard on him. I mean, really hard on him, and he eats it up and likes the feedback and wants to be really, really good. So really proud of that kid where he is so far, and I think this is the floor, and the ceiling's pretty high.
There was a point, I want to say early on in camp, where it looked like Terrell Smith actually might be the better player, at least in some practices, some drills. What did you like about that competition early going? I know an injury kind of slowed things up there in terms of that compete level, but what did you like? What did you see from Smith that may last here?
It's interesting because they're so different, the two of them. One isn't going to say a word at all, and the other one's going to talk a lot. But yet, when the ball snaps, the skill set for both of them is really intriguing. It's long, it's fast, it's twitchy. And they can make plays on the ball, which is cool. So that competition is going to be really good. I'm excited for him to get back, from being injured and contributing this year.
Claypool is one player that Adam brought up.
Yeah.
That edge he showed, at least in that one practice, we're right there. We could hear everything he's saying, and he is on Stevenson hard, almost like whoa.
Yeah.
Buddy,
I was surprised the coach didn't step in at one point.
Yeah, but he was on him, and which is fine. It's they're competing.
Yep.
That edge that's been coming out, him and Eddie Jackson getting in it. What do you like about that, and what are you seeing from him that's different this year than when he came here late last year after the trade?
Yeah, he's been dialed in. He wants to have a good season. He wants to contribute for our team to be successful. We want to make plays for our offense and for Justin. So, and I do like the edge, that he brings. And actually did a little presentation on. Flus had us kind of go through everyone that had been to the Super Bowl. What were the common traits that the Super Bowl teams had, and playing with that edge was one of them that stood out. And actually did some video from our sidelines through the Super Bowl run in 19. And I think you need that. I think you need that edge. It raises the level for everybody. It's part of the identity that you want.
So you guys were actually analyzing what's going on in the sidelines during games? Is that what you're saying?
No.
Yeah.
We used the staff that had been to the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
We talked about the common themes and traits and characteristics of those teams.
Okay.
I was able to show. We had a mic'd up all the Super Bowls.
Oh, got it. Okay.
So
Yeah.
I was showing examples of that. So
what's healthy, what's not on the sidelines.
yeah, and Flus talks about that too, because you do want to stay in between the lines, and you are teammates, which is important to make sure that's all tight. So. Every once in a while, you got to dial the guys in, especially in the middle of training camp.
A guy like DeMarcus Walker.
Yeah, everyone's sick of hitting each other. So that happens, and that's why we're here.
Yeah. He seems to have a lot of edge to him. Some of that, what we're talking about. I know he hasn't played a bunch, but he seems to have that just naturally exuding out of him.
Yeah, it's the competitive fire. It's the ability to bring energy, and it's contagious. You need guys like that.
I know you guys have been pretty clear about you're talking about injuries, not talking about them. But, at what point – there's been a lot of guys out. It doesn't sound like anything's necessarily serious, but, missed practices start to add up. At what point, as a GM, do you start to get frustrated that some of those guys aren't out there?
Yeah, you always get frustrated. You want 100% participation. We actually track that. We reviewed it every year. We're significantly lower than where we were last year. So we're trending in the right direction. There's some tweaks that we continue to make. But at the same time, Regardless if I was here in KC, there's always that middle period where there's a little bit of soft tissue, and what you want is to make sure everything kind of stays in a certain time frame and it's not long or into the regular season. So right now we're in a really good place with that. Obviously, yeah, the little tweaks and stuff that last a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks hurts everyone kind of getting on the same page. We've had enough reps with it where I feel okay. But I do feel like we're trending in the right direction too.
And one of those guys I'm wondering most about is Nate Davis, because you signed him in the offseason. Big contract.
Right.
And not that it's the end of the world, but it's a little unusual that a guy signing with the new team isn't there in OTAs. It happens. Then he's been out. Do you still feel like there's enough time here that whatever chemistry needs to be built up with the offensive line, that missed time, which I'm sure you weren't completely happy about, will be okay?
Yeah. No, we talked through that too. You do want the whole group together so you can work on that communication and gel together. Again, with him, I felt like we've had, some weeks where we were able to put the whole group together. Obviously, we want more. But again, with him, he's trending in the right direction. Obviously, the offseason stuff is there's other factors there too. There's things in people's lives that happen that you got to attend to. So you communicate through those. So we're trending in the right direction where we have enough time for him to get back and kind of mesh with everybody.
When you have those five together, what do you have? How would you describe what you have with those? It's a different look. Some same faces, but different places.
Yeah. No, I think you have a combination of strength and power along with athleticism. And in this scheme that we run, that's what you want. You want to have the ability to run, wide zones and get out and reach people, but at the same time be able to get vertical and get vertical push and more of a gap scheme. So the versatility in the run games, as well as creating anchor and creating depth in the pocket for Justin and any quarterback is important too. So I think we have that combination of athleticism and strength and power and size and width to do a little bit of everything.
And a couple players that seem to take that extra step in terms of pancakes.
Yeah.
Devin Jenkins, we know Darnell Wright has that side to him.
Yep.
I mean, that carries weight in that locker room, I guess, immensely.
Yeah. Yeah, and for your opponent too, you want to be able to wear teams down in the fourth quarter, and that style does that. And really, Braxton's another one that's been able to do that. And again, he's one of those guys that can do both. I mean, you saw him out on that screen, getting out and running. So, it's a good group. Got to get them all together on a consistent basis. But once we get that, we'll be good. And the other thing too is I talked about this. I think one of the press conferences I did. Early in my career, I would kind of not panic, but get frustrated with guys being out. That kind of simulates the season. There's going to be things that happen, and that next guy's got to step in, and this allows us to see who those guys are that can step in and fill in and do a good job. I thought Jatari did a great job in this preseason, and he's growing too, which is outstanding for him and for us.
Yeah, you kind of probably knew when you drafted him that it was going to be somewhat of a project, but he seems like he's really stepped up here in this month, especially with guys being out. All of a sudden, kind of like the defensive ends, you might have more depth there than maybe you thought.
Yeah. And Jatari, I was proud of his work ethic this offseason. I mean, him and Braxton, they were like brothers. They would do everything together. They both spent time with Olin Kreutz working on different things and really investing in their craft and trying to improve, and I think they both have.
So in a few weeks, maybe take us inside your office a bit. When you have these intense discussions, when you have coaches maybe banging on the table for guys, what's that like? How is that different than maybe the draft?
Yeah, it's tough. First of all, the cut down days, one of the hardest days that you can have on the job because you got to hand out so much bad news. At the same time, you're also excited for the guys that made it. But yeah, it's a process where we talk to our coaches in terms of we talk about active roster versus inactives. We talk about guys that can develop and take the next step that might need a little bit more time. We talk the special teams coaches go nuts during this process too because they are fighting for their guys. I don't care what he does on offense or defense. I need him on kickoff coverage or punt protection. So they get their time to talk, and usually they come by late at night and ask for a little bit more time, which is always interesting. But, you take all the information in, and then for me, I've talked about this a bunch in every part of the process. I have to look at now what helps us now, and then also take a peek down the road and see, in terms of development and contracts and all of these different things to see, is this going to help us long term as well. So all of that goes into it. It's a huge, complex puzzle. It takes a little bit of time, but it's fun. I love it, and it's a good challenge.
Fans always worry about like the waiver wire. Like, you can't cut him. There's no way he's returning to the active roster. You can't get, or there's no way he's getting back to the practice squad.
Right.
Like, do you think about that? Do you worry about does that come up in conversation? Like, we cannot release him because I know for a fact he'll be claimed.
No,
yeah,
that's a huge part of it. When I talk about kind of long-term thinking, that's a big part of it, and it's nerve-wracking a little bit. But we use some analytics as a part of our process to give us percentages of guys making it through or not. We look at the tape to see, was there enough that he did to stand out. But yeah, you're holding your breath sometimes for those guys that you really want to spend more time with, but they may not be ready right now and need a little bit more time to help your team. So it's a fun process, though.
I'm sure there's some surprises too, both ways. Like, you're like, wow, I can't believe that guy got claimed, or wow, he actually made it through. Didn't think he would.
Yeah. Yep.
Does that happen every year?
Yeah, it happens every year. I guess it's not a huge surprise just because everyone's trying to condense their roster down to the 53. So for some teams, it's not an easy add just to throw another person on there for developmental purposes because they need to play games as well.
Yeah.
So.
I was gonna say, you've been at this a long time, so I want to leave it with this. There's got to be stories of coaches trying to hide guys, or teams trying to hide guys. Let's keep him out of this preseason game, or let's take him out early, or don't throw the ball his way because we don't want to lose him. We like him; he needs to develop, but we don't want to lose him per se.
Yeah, I wouldn't say so much not throwing the ball or giving opportunities, but just guys will play one game in the preseason and disappear with no injuries, and you're like, that's kind of weird. You almost want to just claim them just to take a shot in the dark. But, there's different ways that goes down. I struggle with that for our guys just because you got to see it, right? You got to me, there's a difference between practice and preseason games. So you got to see guys play, and you got to throw the ball up and see if they're going to go make a play or not. So, there's all kinds of things that are weird that you're wondering why a guy that had traits or you thought was a good player isn't playing much, and so. Yeah.
I have one more for you because I feel bad at the beginning of the interview that I didn't give you credit for being a Bourbonnais.
Oh, yeah.
But my point is
come on, Adam.
I should remember that. But you were there, but my question is, how much do you think that your experience as a player, that for lack of a better word, is maybe a forgotten guy from training camp, has helped you so much as a general manager, just having that perspective that you gained that summer in Bourbonnais?
Yeah, you see the full spectrum from the first-round pick to the bottom of the roster of the guys that came in and got no signing bonus, and they're out just competing to make a spot or even a practice squad spot. So the part of that is just kind of communicating and giving some love to the guys that you see are working hard, because sometimes you're kind of looking around as is that guy going to cut me right now? You're on edge all the time. So I'm aware of that probably a little bit more than most.
St. Elmo's guy or Prime 47 guy?
What's that?
Are you St. Elmo's guy or Prime 47? Since we're here in Indy.
I do both. I do both. Yeah, I'd probably go with St. Elmo's, though, if I had to pick one.
Safe choice.
There you go. Ryan, thanks so much for joining us. We
You're
always
welcome.
appreciate it. And hope you guys have a great, productive week here in Indianapolis.
Healthy week.
Yes, that too.
Healthy week.
Healthy.
Yes.
Yep.
All right.
Awesome.
Thanks,
so
Ryan.
much.
Thank you.
Hey, it can certainly be a pain to figure out what to wear depending on what event you're going to, or work, or you're just hanging out, and especially in the summer when it can be hot. Well, this is where Roan comes in, because men's closets were due for a radical reinvention, and Roan stepped up to the challenge. Roan's commuter collection, you got to check this out. The most comfortable, breathable, and flexible set of products known to man, and here's why. Roan helps you get ready for any occasion with their commuter collection, offering the world's most comfortable pants, dress shirts, quarter zips, polos. Never have to worry about what to wear when you have the Roan commuter collection. The 4-way stretch fabric provides breathability and flexibility that leaves you free to enjoy what life throws your way, from your commute to work to your 18 holes of golf. It's time to feel confident without the hassle with Roan's wrinkle release technology. Any wrinkles that are there will disappear as you stretch and wear the products. It's that easy. My Roan shirt from the Commuter Collection is the white one. Love it. Wear it all the time. I've worn it to weddings. I've worn it to work. Worn it just hanging out with my wife one night. You know, it is that comfortable. And Roan is 100% machine washable, so you can ditch the dry cleaner altogether as well. The Commuter Collection can get you through any workday and straight into whatever comes next. Head to roan.com/Adam. Use promo code Adam to save 20% off your entire order. That's 20% off your entire order when you head to roan.com/Adam. That's RHONE.com/Adam. Use code Adam. It's time to find your corner office comfort.
These days, every new potential hire can feel like a high-stakes wager for your small business. You want to be 100% certain that you have access to the best qualified candidates available. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs helps find the right people for your team faster and for free. It's super easy to create a job posting on LinkedIn. Just a few clicks, and you're all set to find the best candidates possible. Then, you add your job and the purple hashtag hiring frame to your LinkedIn profile to spread the word that you're hiring. Simple tools like screening questions make it easy to focus on candidates with just the right skills and experience so you can quickly prioritize who you'd like to interview and hire. It's super important not just to make a hire, but to make the right hire. It's why small businesses rank LinkedIn Jobs #1 in delivering quality hires versus leading competitors. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. So post your job for free at linkedin.com/Adam. That's linkedin.com/Adam to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply.
All right, Johns. Well, interesting conversation with Ryan Poles, and I think we can safely say the vibes are good right now. Like, we've been doing this interview many years. Like, even when we talked to Ryan last year, like, we all knew what was coming. Maybe not the first overall pick, but we knew that they were in a full rebuild. And you could just tell from hearing him talk up this rookie class that confidence is genuine.
Yeah.
And that there's just more competition overall here.
We feel it's a better team. And I think even I don't think we get too carried away with, like, first impressions, like your sense of training camp, because we've been at this a while. He's been at it longer than us. Like, he feels that, like, this is a better team. I mean, he's basically saying that. You see it on the field. It's a better roster. There's better competitions. There's just more talent in important positions. And he should feel good about what he accomplished. And really, if you think about it, in only 2 years of roster turnover as well. Think about that.
Yeah, it's
2 draft
fast.
classes.
Yeah.
Only one real run of free agency. Because
Right.
he didn't really
Then he didn't have the space
partake
to
in
do
it
it.
last year.
Yeah.
No, last year,
Now, let's not get carried away. Like, I also think, and this is, I would compliment everyone involved, like most, whether it's fans, media. Like, again, I feel like most people are on the same page this year.
Yeah.
It's a better team. No one's thinking Super Bowl here. No one's, talking. I think the division possibly, because especially because Aaron Rodgers isn't there anymore. And maybe we should have talked to Ryan more about the division. But
Stuff for grabs.
It's in the conversation that they can make a run at the division, and I think that would be a fair expectation.
I like what he said about DJ Moore. And I don't think you could say enough just in terms of what his impact has meant. It's not just like Justin Fields. What did he call him? Duct tape for Justin Fields? I like that description. But it's the competition with the young cornerbacks, right? It's putting pressure on the entire secondary to know where he is. It's opening up things for Darnell Mooney. There's such a ripple effect that you're seeing with the addition of DJ Moore. You can't say enough good things. I think he said a lot, but you can even go on. You can do a whole podcast just talking about all the layers that DJ Moore has kind of really brought to this team.
Well, and he really has been that good. I say it almost every day. He's the best player on the field. It's just so obvious. I'm excited now that they're here in Indy to go up against the Colts to see, how the rosters compare and, where the Colts are this year. We don't have to get too deep in the weeds on this because the practices haven't happened, but I feel like the Bears should come out of these few days as thinking they're the better team. They should be the better team.
Yeah, on paper they're the better team.
Yeah.
And we wouldn't have said that last year.
No.
I don't think we said that once going into any game last year, and that's why you had a 3-win season. It got progressively worse too as you traded, your two best players, arguably. But it's a better vibe. There's a better level of competition, and I think Ryan Poles can confidently believe those things by what we're all seeing.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, well, whatever happens down here in Indy, we'll have it covered for you when the practices are over. We'll probably get back together Friday to recap everything from Wednesday and Thursday before Saturday's game against the Colts. In the meantime, we'll have you covered. We'll have practice recap shows on CHGO both Wednesday and Thursday night. And then, of course, Johnsy's down here with all the coverage in The Athletic. TheAthletic.com/Hoge Jahns is where you go to get subscribed and get all the coverage from The Athletic. Merchandise. We're going to see any down here in Indy? I hope so.
I think I've seen one already.
I want to know how my dad got his Hoge Jahns polo before me.
Yeah.
Or you.
Yeah.
What's up with that?
I don't know. He looks good, though. Looks sharp.
Yeah.
Can't wait to wear it.
It looks really good. So hopefully people are buying those. ObviousShirts.com. We thank you so much for the support, as always.
He must have pre-ordered somehow.
Yeah, I don't know how he did that.
Grandpas are smart.
It's messed up. All right, well, thanks to Ryan Poles for joining us again. We will be back Friday to recap everything from these two practices against the Colts. We'll talk to you then.
See ya.
Anyway, who cares?